Good evening, everyone. My name is Justine and I will be your host for this evening. So we'll start with an acknowledgement of country. So I would like to acknowledge the Palawa Pakana of Lutruwita, the traditional owners of the land upon which we live and work. We pay respect to elders past and present as the knowledge holders and sharers within our community. We honour their strong culture and knowledges as vital to the self-determination, well-being and the resilience of their communities. We stand for a future that profoundly respects and acknowledges Aboriginal perspectives, culture, history and language. So tonight we're going to cover why should you study at the University of Tasmania? Why study an Environment and Antarctic course with us? The course options available, the fees and scholarships available and what that entails, how to apply to study with us, and then we'll also have a Q&A as well. So the Q&A, you'll notice at the bottom, you should be able to upload your questions as we progress rather than speak your questions. So we'll get you to upload your questions and then at the end we will address those. So why study at the University of Tasmania? We have some of the happiest students in the country. They are extremely satisfied with the teaching quality that we have compared to nationally. So we are above average in our student satisfaction. We also have very strong graduate outcomes. So as far as our students going on to full employment from undergraduate, we have 82% of those students that go into full-time employment. Quite often, a lot of them have job offers before they have finished their degree. And then for those postgraduates, it's even higher. So you're looking at 96%. We offer a whole range of variety in our student support area. So whether that be help with your academic career, whether it be guidance around what you do at the end of your career, so career guidance, or if you need someone to talk to. So everything through from counselling to accessibility, disability, etc. We are number one in the world for climate action, something we are super proud of. So you would be becoming part of the world's leading university on climate action. It's something that we take very seriously and are extremely proud of. Why study our Environment and Antarctic courses? So I think it goes without saying Tasmania is a living laboratory. It is an island state and the World Heritage listed natural environments, unique wildlife, our pristine landscapes and seascapes, and the proximity to Antarctica. So that is a huge advantage as well. We offer a variety of styles of learning, including hands-on learning, so real-world learning, where you actually get out in that environment. So field trips, exploring the natural environment, industry tours, work placements, and learning in our cutting-edge simulation facilities as well. You get to learn from the best. We have some amazingly passionate teachers who are experts in their field. The University of Tasmania is home to some of the world's top marine, Antarctic and environmental researchers. So you are certainly learning from some of the best in the world. Today, we're going to explore 3 of our Environment and Antarctic courses in more depth. But before we do that, we are going to have kind of a 2-minute quick breakdown of what each course is like before we separate into some breakout rooms around the courses that you're interested in or course that you're interested in. So leading the pack is Dr. Scott Bennett for the Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science. So I will hand over to you, Scott.
Thanks very much. And hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name's Scott Bennett. I'm a marine ecologist and researcher at IMAS, so the Institute of Marine and Antarctic Studies within UTAS, and coordinator of the Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science. We have 5 majors within the Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science, which we'll talk about more in detail. But it's truly a unique and the best place on earth to study marine science. And I say that as someone who has studied and worked all around Australia and around the world. I think the offer here, both as a gateway to Antarctica, but also sort of the gateway to the Southern Ocean and our temperate marine environment is puts us in a really truly unique place, and it's a really exciting course. So look forward to chatting more with you.
Thank you so much, Scott. We'll move on to Dr. Rachel Hurd now with the Bachelor of Geospatial Science.
Hi everyone, nice to see you all here. So yeah, I'm the course coordinator for the Bachelor of Geospatial Science. It's a newish degree in its name, but we've been teaching geospatial science at this university for 50 years in all its different forms. Geospatial science is a science that not a lot of people know about, but it's a really crucial part of the modern world and our modern environmental careers. So basically it's about measuring, mapping, monitoring and understanding what's going on around us so that we can make more informed decisions. It involves lots of great tech if you're into that sort of thing. So we use drones, laser scanners, GPS. We use lots of three-dimensional digital modeling to help us create models of the world around us and understand what plan for the future and understand the changes that are occurring now. So it's a really important science if you're into the science of understanding the environment, whether that's marine or land-based environments. We've got a degree for you, so I'd love to have a chat when that comes. Lots of 3 different majors you can do in that degree that lead to 3 very distinct kind of career outcomes. So if you jump into the breakout room, I'll talk to you more about those in there.
Thanks, Rachel. And last but definitely not least, the Bachelor of Natural Environments and Conservation with Dr. Vishnu Prahalad. And I hope I said your surname correct, Vishnu.
That's all fine, Justine. Thank you.
No worries.
Look, last but not the least, definitely, BNEC, as we call it, is the conservation degree in a nutshell. And if you're passionate about the environment, conservation, sustainability, that's the degree. And the great thing about the degree is that it allows you to take the human side, which is the human geography focused degrees and units, and you go into policy, planning, working for local governments, and so on. You can also do ecology and focus on physical geography, physical environments, and then that takes you into field-based work and conservation agencies and governments and so on. And the other thing about the degree is that you can combine that with a focus on legal aspects. You can do electives in law, you can do electives in terms of hazard management, or you can do electives in zoology and plant science, as well as various ways in which you can tailor the degree depending on what your specific interests are. So I guess it's a generic conservation degree, and Tasmania is a wonderful place to do it. And the breakout rooms, I'm happy to talk to you about the specifics of the degree and examples of what our students have ended up doing in the field. Thank you.
Thanks, Vishnu. So now we're going to head into our breakout rooms to go into some more in-depth information from each of our 3 experts in the field. So you will see in a moment, you'll be able to select the room that you want to go into. So you'll have the choice of marine and Antarctic science, geospatial science, and natural environment and conservation. You just need to select the join button when it appears and pop into that room and have a chat to your academic.
We'll get started. This is this is an informal webinar. If you have questions as we go, please feel free just to unmute and jump in. You can also put things in the chat. I'll try and monitor the chat, but we'll see how we go. But yeah, please feel free to make this interactive. So thanks very much. It's terrific to see you're here for the webinar on Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science. Just to jump straight into our major, I can change the slides. So I work out in the Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science is run out of the Institute of Marine and Antarctic Science at the University of Tasmania. And this is a specialty research and teaching institute at the university. We're beautifully placed. We're located on the waterfront. For those of you who know Hobart, right on the docks down in Hobart is sort of the main institute building. And we have a second institute building in Taroona, about 8 kilometres down the river, which has also got a terrific new teaching and research facility that's currently under construction. It'll actually come online in the next year or so, which will be really exciting for the back end, particularly of your degrees. IMAS is internationally recognised as for its excellence in marine and Antarctic research, and that's really evidenced by the staff here, the calibre of the staff here. We have several of the world's most highly cited marine researchers in their respective fields, plus leaders on IPCC reports and many international bodies and things. Truly inspiring and incredible researchers at hand. And it's always also with UTAS being the only university in Tasmania, it also gives us really strong industry links and ties with government. And so unlike all the other states in Australia where the fisheries research for the state is outsourced to a government department, in Tasmania we do that in-house, and we do that through IMAS. So IMAS does all the stock assessments and things for Tasmania's seafood sector, and all those expertise are in-house. And so, for instance, throughout your degree, you learn from the people that are actually making the stock assessments, them putting the advice to government to make the calls to reduce flathead or change the quotas on different and species and things. And so it's a really dynamic and vibrant place to work in. And yeah, world-class laboratories and teaching spaces. And as you can see the bottom point there, it says IMAS Taroona is emerging as a unique fisheries and aquaculture precinct. So we're really excited about the new build that's happening here at Taroona, where I'm based. It's a really state-of-the-art new teaching facility, which is really dedicated to our fisheries and our aquaculture degrees, but also it's in partnership with the Australian Antarctic Division. So other element, there'll be a big Antarctic lab there, big krill lab, and we'll have this big deep sea krill lab. So when the Nuina, the Antarctic icebreaker ship comes back into Hobart, they can transfer some of their the krill that they've collected in the Southern Ocean, transfer that to the the Antarctic laboratory here and continue running experiments on krill and other organisms. So really exciting, and that's where a lot of the teaching will happen over the coming years. Sort of narrowing in on our degree. The degree is a 3-year degree, maximum 7 years, and it's located all in Hobart. And so again, we have 5 majors and they're all based here. You can see the entry requirements there, completed TCE and completed at least 2 units of undergraduate study or Cert 4 relevant work and life experience. So there's quite flexible pathways that you can use to get into the degree. And our 5 majors are marine biology, marine resource management, which is our fisheries degree, marine and Antarctic governance, oceans, ice and climate, which is it's a brand new degree. It's it's evolved from what was previously called oceanography, and it's sort of expanded from being more than just oceanography, but also expanding into Antarctic ice science, glaciology and various aspects that really help us understand the ocean's role in regulating the climate and various things. And the 5th major there is sustainable aquaculture. I can hardly say the degree really does offer a wide range of careers across multiple marine-oriented sectors. And it's one of the sort of major concerns, particularly from parents sort of coming into a marine science degree, there used to be the notion that there were not jobs in the industry, and that sort of paradigm or that idea has completely changed now. So across all of 5 majors, students come out of that degree really employable and in quite high demand. A lot of we actually have trouble retaining a lot of our, particularly our marine resource management and aquaculture students for further studies, because they do get picked up by industry to go on to work. But the same as with our governance, our ocean, ice and climate and marine biology degrees, the skills that you get out of that are really transferable, and we'll talk a bit more about those. If we look at the structure of the degree, so all 5 majors, so when you study the Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science, you can choose any one of those majors. If you choose to do a double major, they're also compatible, and they all share this same basic structure. And so 3 years, 2 semesters per year. Each semester is typically made up of major units, which are specific to the major that you've selected to do. Then we have core units, which are those kind of middle units there, like Introductory to Marine and Antarctic Science A, Data Handling, Statistics, etc. They're our core units, and they are the same across all 5 majors. And then we have on the right-hand side, we have our elective units, and they are an opportunity for you to choose any unit, across the university that you would like to study. And so typically students run with 4 units per semester, 8 units per year. And again, 2 major units, 4 core units and 2 electives. And so you can see with that design that if you would choose to do a double major, say, for instance, I want to do marine biology and oceans, ice and climate, then I'll have my 2 major units that are specific to marine biology in the first year. My 4 core units are consistent across both majors, and then my 2 I can use my elective spaces to put in my second major, for instance, oceans, ice and climate. The idea of the core units is really to give sort of all students, irrespective of what degree they study, a nice overview of marine science in temperate and Antarctic marine science. And so you can see each of those units really covers across, gives students a foundation in each of the 5 majors. Introduction to Marine and Antarctic Science A is really that. It's really a snapshot. It's an overview of kind of key principles, concepts, ideas, and work that takes place across IMAS and across, which really represents the 5 degrees. Introduction to Marine and Antarctic Science B is really sort of focused in more around the governance, policy and management side of things. And then you can see in both years, in year 1 and year 2, we've got a strong focus as well on data handling and statistics and data analysis and statistics in the second year, because those quantitative skills and analytical skills are crucial across all majors. Yeah, in second year that carries on, and so again our core units are really cover off across our 5 degrees. You can see there we've got an introduction to oceanography, marine and resource management and conservation, Antarctic ecosystems, and a couple more data analysis options. Let's see what slides we have next. Okay, so this is a little bit more information on each of our 5 majors. Marine biology, again, really focused on exploring temperate marine, Southern Ocean, Antarctic ecosystems, plants and animals. And if you look at the bottom of the slides, you can see some of the potential career outcomes to come from each of these degrees. So some options there out of marine biology: threatened species biologist, marine park manager, conservation biologist, Antarctic scientists. That's several options there, that kind of narrow sector. But I think one point I'd emphasize is that doing degrees in marine science doesn't limit you just to academia and working within universities or research institutions necessarily. there is huge employment, as those jobs suggest, within government, sort of state and federal government, within national parks, or within industries. There's sort of a wide range of emerging industries, both here in Tasmania and interstate and internationally, that require marine science skills, expertise, and technical ability to do that work. Marine resource management, which is really our fisheries degrees, is our fisheries degree, is to understand the environmental stress and resource strain in the Southern Ocean. And so career outcomes from that: marine and fisheries research scientist. And again, that can be, you know, across research organisations, CSIRO, university, government. Fisheries observer, working on ships and things like that. Environmental consultant or compliance officer, to give, you know, some ideas, but again, really transferable skills that come out of each of these degrees, and things that can be adopted and applied to a wide range of career and job opportunities. Oh, 1 sec, I'll just go back. I'm just going to move my Marine and Antarctic governance. So this is a terrific degree. This is, you know, and really quite different flavour to marine biology and marine resource management, which is, you know, I guess very biological focused. Marine and Antarctic governance is really people focused, right? So exploring the complex environmental issues and how to communicate them for policy impact. And so again, this degree is super transferable. You can think of communication manager or officer, policy analyst, legal consultant, environmental management, and the range of units, the subjects that we do in this degree, again, reflect that. They go from, you know, international law to governance, management, policy, focused units. It's a really interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary major that equips students really well to work cross-sectorally in the marine space, to look after it and design better policy and management outcomes. Our new degree that I mentioned, Ocean, Ice and Climate. So this is what was previously called was previously known as oceanography, but it's had a rebrand, but more than that, it's really expanded from being not just oceanography, but really like honing in on core Antarctic science, ice sheet, ice shelf, climate questions. So it's focusing there. It says on ocean currents, changing ocean temperatures, sea level, and the role of the ocean in the climate system. Okay, so the ocean absorbs 90% of you know, the heat, and you know, and so when we understanding climate change, you know, we need to understand the ocean. The ocean is fundamental to understanding climate change, and this really sort of, you know, dives deep into this from a really quantitative analytical perspective. And so again, skills that come out of this are extremely transferable, really strong quantitative, analytical, mathematical skills that can be applied to a whole range of career opportunities and outcomes. You can work as a oceanographer, meteorologist, hydrologist, data analyst, but again, you're just limited by your imagination. They're really, really terrific skills and outcomes of that. And really just exciting degree. We're really excited to get that underway next year. It's starting for the first time in 2025. And last but certainly not least,
Dr. Bennett, could I just ask a question about that particular course?
Yeah, of course.
If we accept it, do you have the capacity to defer, or do you need to start next year?
Yeah, no, you can defer. That's quite common, particularly among, you know, people taking gap years and different things.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify if that is the possibility, or if this was structured, this course, the way that you were running it and you were starting it off next year. So
no, and actually it'll be a bit of a slow start. We're sort of like integrating some units over the next couple of years. So no, that'll be fine. And the way these courses are set up is it doesn't actually really matter if you start in semester 1 or semester 2. they're kind of, you know, units are taught one semester per year, so it's just on a rolling thing, and they're kind of set up that, yeah.
If you miss it with the first semester, you pick it up in the following.
You pick it up in the following year. Yeah, you
year.
start the second semester, and they're sort of semester 2 and 1 of first or second year sort of
year.
work together.
Yeah, great. Okay, all right,
Yes.
wonderful. Thank you. So thanks. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's okay. I'll just like, okay, great. Erin's responded to you, Jenny. Great. Yeah, foundation units can be studied. If everyone's seeing the chat there, just a question about if you haven't studied chemistry in year 12, is there a makeup unit available? And yeah, Erin's responded. Thanks, Erin. Absolutely. Chemistry, it is it's a bit of a non-negotiable anymore. It's a relatively recent prerequisite that was brought in for marine biology, but for good reasons. It's just some fundamental skills that we do require. We get a lot of students sort of starting or wanting to start the degree without chemistry, and that's fine. You can do these foundation units and quickly, you know, get up to speed, and they happen over summer, and so you're kind of good to go by the new year. Sustainable aquaculture. So as you can read there, gain knowledge and skills to create innovative processes that provide sustainable environmental, economic, community benefits. Okay, we've got the world, you know, we've got 8 billion people. We have huge demand on our food systems. There is a need for innovative, but also sustainable new blue food options. And this degree is really getting at the core of that. Sustainability is a really core focus of this degree. It's looking at both, you know, both existing aquaculture programs, but also innovative new emerging aquaculture industries and blue foods. And it's really at the cutting edge of food supply and the things we need to do aquaculture sustainably, onshore, offshore, near shore, etc. And this is, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of the degrees where we actually really struggle to retain students because they do get picked up by industry very quickly. There's a huge demand for talent, students who have studied aquaculture from the aquaculture industry, no doubt, not surprisingly. So, you know, career outcomes include aquarium and conservation aquaculture, environmental monitoring and biosecurity, commercial aquaculture, fish health and nutrition. Yeah, both in Australia and Australia more broadly, there's large demand there. So Bronwyn's giving us a warning. We'll be ending the breakout session shortly. Can you please let me know if a taster session is available online? By taster session, Adira, you're referring to sort of more information about each of the majors, are you? I can certainly provide more details, and I can pass the slide deck to Bronwyn after this, which goes into the actual units that go into each of the degrees. We haven't had time to go through each of that here, but you can see the specific units that make up each of those degrees, so you can sort of get a better sense. And from that as well, you can if you just Google the unit codes that we send around, you can get a nice sort of spiel on, or sort of summary of each of those units off the UTAS website. If I've done mathematics methods 3, but not general maths 3, do I still meet the prerequisite for general maths for marine biology? Probably. Is my answer. I think you would. Erin, I don't know if you have a response to that.
I'm not too sure on that one, but it might be best to contact someone in our admissions team to help answer that question. We'll provide some details after this session on how to get that phone number and email address.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure of specifics, but I think if you've done pre-tertiary maths.
Hello, everyone. You are in the Bachelor of Natural Environments and Conservation room, and I'm Vishnu Perla, that was just in the main room. I'll start sharing my screen and talk to you a bit more about the degree in a minute. But just maybe quickly, if a couple of you are happy to say where you're joining us from and what you're interested in the degree, that would help the conversation. Thanks, Iola. Melbourne and ecology. That's helpful, even if you want to put it down in the chat. That's great. And I'll touch on those things specifically as I go through my presentation. We've got a lot of students coming down from Melbourne and specifically interested in ecology. Sydney ecology, passionate about the environment and wildlife conservation. See that, I mean, thanks, Zoe. I guess, that's the starting point, is that we want our students to be passionate about the environment, the natural environment specifically, but also human interaction with the natural environment. But also, this is a degree suitable for those of you who are not really committed to, forest ecology or rivers or coasts or wetlands. So you're sort of, generally interested in the environment, but you want to explore the various opportunities and options that are there. And that's what this degree is designed to do really well. And the first year, you get introduced to a broad range of topics. And I do a session on beaches and coasts, and then you go from there to geodiversity and how to manage mountains. And then you get another little package on politics and how politics interacts with conservation and so on. So it's a really good broad mix of things that are there in the degree. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen and effectively outline what the degree contains, and I'll take questions. And please feel free to pop your questions in the chat, and I'll try to pick them up as I go. All right, so. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen now. Go into the presenter mode. I'll also get my chat window open. Yeah. Right. It is the Bachelor of Natural Environments and Conservation, or BNEC. It's a standard undergraduate degree in that it is 3 years full-time, but you can also do it part-time, or you can sort of pace yourself as you go. So there's a maximum of 7 years. And that's useful because sometimes students want to go traveling or want to hit pause and reconsider their options in terms of their electives or what they want to do after year 3, go honors or masters. So in my conversation with students or current students, I often tell them, if you're not sure, take a break and then come back. And then in that time that you're taking off, work or go traveling, and see, what your passion is, and try to come back and tailor your degree to follow your passions and your interests. So that's why you've got that space of 7 years for you to complete the degree. It's mainly based in Hobart. That's where our on-campus sessions are. That's where our labs are. But we have also an offering in Launceston. Is anyone here from north of Tasmania? If you are, I'm happy to chat to you about what we do in Launceston in relation to BNEC. The entry requirement, look, you probably know the requirements already. There's the traditional pathway coming from completing your school, but also there's the alternative pathway. What I constantly do is I get emails from students having completed a diploma or done some work and are mature age students, and I'm able to then assess your qualifications and then provide a pathway into the degree. And sometimes that would involve giving you credits for your previous studies, like for instance for diploma and so on. So that's something that we will work through the enrollment process. So what you will study is that we've got this three-way split, and I'll touch on that in the next slide in terms of what that involves. But I guess the important point to note here is that a third of your degree is electives. Effectively, that's where you're tailoring your degree based on your specific interests. And that's my role as a course coordinator, to have one-on-one conversations with students to say, what are your inclinations? What are your interests? Your interest in legal aspects, then we can tailor your electives to follow your interests, so that you can then look for work in that specific area, legal aspects or field aspects and so on. So that's why, at the end of the day, there's a broad range of career outcomes, employability across the board. You can work specifically in the space of sustainability, right? In terms of waste management, energy conservation, circular economy, and so on, to urban planning, right? Transport. If you're passionate about sustainable transport, then a lot of our students end up in that space as well as ecology, right? So we've got students who've graduated and are spending a lot of time in the field, measuring plants, as you can see in the picture there, and that's all possible in the degree. And that's I guess the main draw card of the degree, is that it gives you those opportunities, the different opportunities that you can explore, and then identify what your own journey is going to be. Okay, so this is the degree structure. I guess this is a very important thing for you to look at, to really see if this is the degree for you. I mentioned that there are 8 electives, and you can see that here. So the electives are spread across your degree. You have electives in year 1, quite a few in year 2. That's where you're getting a sense of where you're going, and you're doing a lot of those electives. And then also in year 3, your higher level units. So I mentioned that the degree is broadly, you can split it into 3, and 1/3 is the elective. Now, the other 2/3 are your major and core units. Okay, so you basically have to do these units. And there are, rare exceptions, and I assess them on a case-by-case basis, but generally, you have to do these units. So I'll draw your attention. I mentioned in my intro pitch that the degree is structured in terms of the human aspects and the physical aspects, the human geography, physical geography. You can see that here. Okay, so I'll point to the first year units. The first year units are really broad because it sets the scene. But then as you go into your high level units, there's the physical geography there. You're learning about Earth, climate, and life, field techniques. You'll be going out in the field, like the alpine environments, and measuring things on the ground, collecting soil samples, take it back to the lab, put it in the oven, look at the soil, and from that work out what's happening to the environment and how we manage the environment, right? And that you can also see extending into field techniques. So that's a unit that I also teach in, where you spend 8 days in Bruny Island as a residential unit, where all the 8 days you're learning new techniques, right? So the one prac I do there is how we measure trees and do a forest inventory, right? So for climate change mitigation and carbon sequestration, we need to know how much carbon is in our environments, forests, wetlands, and so on. So in that particular unit, we'll be doing those measurements, and from that workout, for instance, how much carbon is in that forest community. So that's a physical component, right? And you can see that carrying over to the 3rd year as well. And then there are the human components. The human components, nature, people, place, 1st year, but also I mentioned politics and economics. I mean, you can't have conservation if you ignore economics, politics, and culture. Okay, and that's the human components, that we have to integrate conservation within the context of our economic systems, political systems, and culture. including indigenous culture. So you can do units focusing on indigenous culture, for instance, in these core electives, and that's part of the core electives, the list of them. One of the units is understanding indigenous life worlds, where you're learning from First Nations people in terms of how you can use that skills and knowledge along with all these other things that you're learning in the unit. So that carries on into year 3, where you're looking at management and also the political ecologies of development, which is a critical view of political systems and the interface with conservation and so on. So that's the 2 different flavors here. And the school that we are delivering this degree is the School of Geography, Planning and Spatial Sciences. So you heard Rachel back in the main room. Geospatial sciences is her field. And that's a good thing about the school and also the degree is that we are very close to people who are working in spatial sciences and remote sensing. And we integrate that into the unit. So already in first year, you're using software, making maps. And if that interests you, right, and then you can add more remote sensing and spatial sciences units into your elective mix. And that's a very, very employable skill. So if you're thinking about employability, and if you're sort of a techie kind of a person, you like a bit of programming, and that's a really good, I guess, a way to slant your degree. It's a conservation degree, but your skills are also in remote sensing and GIS and so on. So that's possible because of the school that we are in this degree. So that's the makeup of the degree. I'm sure you have questions on this, and I'm very happy to take those questions. I mentioned customizing your degree, and that is for me, apart from the fact that you're doing it in Tasmania. I'll finish up on that note in terms of why Tasmania is a good place to do this degree. The other big selling point is the ability to tailor this degree to suit you, right? So I mentioned if you are the person who likes to be outdoors, right, doing things outdoors, we can tailor it to suit your skills, which is ecology. If you're concerned about climate change, we can focus on emergency management, natural resource management. I guess, there's just 4 options here. But what I like to do is basically look at the individual and what your interests and skills are and see how we can tailor the degree to suit your interests and skills. So that is, I guess, a big selling point. Look, I guess that's the picture. I mentioned I finish up with Tasmania in terms of why it's a special place to do this degree. I mean, you probably know this yourself as part of the reason why you're here, perhaps. We have a lot of nature here, right? So I live here near Hobart, and I've got bandicoots coming to my front yard. There's wildlife everywhere, which is fabulous, and there's nature everywhere. But it's not all plain and simple. That nature is changing all the time, because of weeds, because of land clearing that's happening, because of climate change impacts, and so on. So we've got to manage that. And that management is happening all around us. And being a small place, those connectivities and being able to go and do something locally and volunteer with the local group is much more enhanced, right? So that's the value of being in a small place like Tasmania, where those connections are much more enhanced and those opportunities are a lot more available here. But also, Tasmania is one of the birthplaces of conservation movement around the world, right? You can go back to Lake Better, the Franklin campaign, the founding of the world's first Greens political party, and that was from the School of Geography here, right? So all those movements came out of our schools back in the 70s and 80s. So there's the cultural history as well, the political cultural history, which obviously is the beauty of geography because it combines the physical and also the human and cultural and political aspects. So I guess for me, those are really, really important features of this degree here at GPS's UTAS based in Hobart, Tasmania. Right. So I'm going to stop there and I'm going to look at the chat to see if there are any questions. But I'm also opening up for questions. You can unmute yourself and speak in or put your questions in the chat. Are there any units available online? Yes. So there are only 3 units that you need to be in person to do. So you can do your whole degree online, except for 3 units. And that is the ones I've got this asterisk sign here. That's field techniques, because we want you to be in Bruny Island. And things like using a surveying equipment, you can't do it online. Okay. But also because you're doing all of your other units online, this gives you that middle ground, if you like. So you do some online because of convenience, but then you come here to be with us, to meet your teaching staff, to meet your peers in the class, and do some things in person that really can't be replicated online in a reasonable way. So there are at least 2, potentially 3 units that you have to be in here in person, but all of the other units you can do online. So another question in the chat is, what kind of careers can this degree lead to? I guess, as you can see, given the breadth of the topics that we cover, and also given the possibility for you to tailor it within your elective space, there are a whole range of different job opportunities that are there. I'll give you some examples. So last week, I was teaching, I'm teaching environmental management this semester. Last week, we had a seminar series. We had 5 guest lecturers come in for the seminar series. All the 5 of our guest lecturers did uni here. Okay. And I think 3 or 4 of them did this particular degree, BNEC. So one person, Alex, is working for the Australian government, and he is deputy director, actually, of the team that's managing our Australian marine park estate. Okay, that's looking at marine parks across continental shelves and so on. Another person, she's working locally for an organization called Tasmanian Land Conservancy. So her job involves going out to the field, doing camera trap monitoring, doing transect monitoring. And then based on the monitoring, writing reports and doing on-ground environmental management. We had another student, she works for forest practices. So she goes out and, looks at how forestry is done and regulating the industry, and if they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, giving them permits and so on. We've got another person who's actually working for the university now in the space of sustainability. Another person is working at local council. And another, interestingly, there's a pathway to politics as well. We know a lot of our students are really politically engaged. One student, Ellen, she's now a political advisor, right? And that's just 2 years since she's finished the degree. She's now a political advisor. So that's the thing, right? I mean, she's passionate about the environment, and in her way, she's figured out that she can be an agent of change, if you like, if she is within the sphere of politics where you can influence change. So she's gone into politics, and you can do that with this degree. So I guess that's the thing, is that it really depends on where you want to take this, but there are those opportunities that are there. Right. So another question, how many students do you expect to enroll? That's a tricky one. So maybe 20 or 30 is my ballpark figure. But in first year geography, which I teach semester 1 first year geography, so all of the students enrolling in BNEC will be in that unit. So I'll see them all, or probably see you there. But in our first year geography, we had 150 students this year. So it's a very popular unit, especially at the first year level, because it provides a broad coverage of topics, and sort of people want to sample geography, sample conservation, and come and do the first year unit. I can see the time's ticking. I'll quickly touch on the other questions. Are there any opportunities to study overseas? There is. There are two pathways. One is exchange. So you can do 6 months or 1 year of exchange. You can go to New Zealand, you can go to Europe, North America, and do exchange. You can also do UniGo, that is Southeast Asian countries where the focus is on sustainability. So there are those opportunities that are there studying overseas. What ATAR is required for the course? I don't know that off the top of my head, and that's the kind of question that your uni advisors would help. But I don't think it is particularly high, if that's helpful at all. We do have 40 seconds. Any other questions? So just going back to how many students do you expect to do this course, it is a fairly popular course, right? At least from the UTAS point of view, and I don't know what the numbers are in other university. I'm sort of vaguely aware of other courses around the campus in UTAS, but BNEC has always been popular and still is. Yes, another question is it possible to transfer credits from previous unit into it? Yes, you can. Let's say you've done 6 months of uni in Melbourne or Perth. That's fine. You can get credits for that. So,
hello, people in geospatial room. Hopefully that's the room you plan to select. I'm just waiting. There are still 9 people being allocated to rooms. So I'll just wait and see if any of those are coming in here. And if not, I'll have a chat with the 3 of you. Which would be great. Still a few more people. Okay, I think that'll do. Hello, Max, Alexander, and Anne. I am going to go through some slides with you first, just to show you what the degree is all about. And then I'm happy if you want to turn your microphones on and have a chat with me, or just want to chat through the chat room, that's also fine. I'm recording this, so the recording will be available later on, I think, as well. So you should be able to see my presentation, which starting with a lovely picture of one of our fabulous researchers working out in the Tasmanian wilderness with a drone, capturing some geospatial data. So I will talk about what the degree is all about, and then, as I said, I'll take any questions. Welcome, Andrea. Nice to have you in here with us as well. Let me think, I've just lost my screen on my computer. So this degree, Geospatial Science, is a standalone 3-year degree. It is specifically designed for people who want to become surveyors or geospatial scientists, and surveying is kind of a subset of geospatial. So previously this degree was focused on people who wanted to be surveyors, and now much more we're focusing on the more modern description of these people who work in this area, which is geospatial science. So geospatial science is the science of where. That's kind of how we describe it. It's understanding where things are, where they're moving, how they're moving, and where we might plan to change or make decisions in the future. So it's about measuring, mapping, and monitoring the environment, and that includes urban areas and natural environments. So it's really important across all of society. It also includes the oceans. So there's an aspect of geospatial science called hydrographic surveying, where we are responsible for measuring and mapping the bottom of the oceans and doing all of that kind of work, which is really critical for all sorts of reasons. So the degree itself is a 3-year degree. I'll show you the structure in a second. We are located in Hobart, but it is possible to do quite a few units online at the moment, particularly in the first year. And so that means if you're based in the north of the state, we're very happy to have you do first year from the north or anywhere else. We prefer having you on campus, but it is definitely possible to study at least the first year online with us, depending on the electives that you choose. There are 3 majors, and again, I'll talk about them more in a minute. And it's a professionally accredited degree. If you want to become a surveyor, you have to do this degree or a similar one at a different uni. A beautiful thing about this degree that's really great for our students is they all graduate with a drone pilot license, which makes them extremely employable at the end of their degree. The other great thing about this degree is regardless of which major you choose, I can guarantee you will get a job in the location that you want to work, doing the things you want to do. There is a critical undersupply of people with these skills, not only in Australia, but in every other country in the world. And that undersupply is forecast to grow. So by choosing this degree, you are choosing not only an excellent degree that's really interesting and modern, but it's also really critical for society heading into the future. And there are not enough people with these skills and knowledge. So puts you in a nice specialist group of people who will do jobs doing great things and doing really interesting things. I think I'll leave questions to the end, so I'll just skip through to give you a bit more information first. So the course structure should be showing on your screens now. It's a fairly standard 3-year structure. We have 4 units, which are the ones in very light blue on the left. They're what we refer to as the geospatial units. So in those, you'll learn about digital mapping, GIS, geographic information science, where you use three-dimensional geographic models to make decisions and analyze information spatially. Remote sensing is about using satellites to visualize what's happening on the Earth's surface. So that is also in our geospatial core. There's a couple of remote sensing units, so we build your skills and knowledge through those remote sensing units. Then the other units, analysis of geospatial information, is about, again, using computers to analyze spatial data and understand what's going on around us or decisions that we might make. Like if you want to build a new high school, you might use a GIS to help you find out where people are going to travel from and then create better transport options for the people, or put the school in a location where it's going to be easy for people to get to. So those kind of really critical societal decisions get made using spatial analysis, which brings us to the end of year 2 in that core section. And then satellite positioning is using GPS to map the Earth or specific areas. Drone mapping and pilot certification is where you learn to fly drones and you get your license. You also learn how to scientifically collect data with drones, not just fly them because it's fun, but fly them in a way that lets you collect data that's really useful for a range of purposes. 3D spatial data capture is about using laser scanners and really cool what's called SLAM technology and photogrammetric techniques, so using photographs to create 3-dimensional reality. So models, so you might have heard of 3D printing, 3D modeling, BIMs, point clouds. That's what that's about, and then some Python programming to help you do your geospatial analysis. So that's what everyone does, regardless of their major. In the majors, you have 3 to choose from, and I'll talk about those in a second, but those are the sort of lighter green ones on the right. And then you have 8 electives where you could do whatever you want. So people tend to do perhaps some computing or some maths or some more environmental science, you can sort of build your own little specialisation inside those elective units. The three majors are the really crux of what I want to talk to you about. These are the choice that you have in terms of where you might head. The other thing I would say about these majors is that you can easily switch from one to the other, or if you do some of your electives as units from the other majors, then you can kind of create a degree that has a little bit of everything. So the first one is data analytics. So that's spatial data analytics. So in that degree, you do all the geospatial things, but you also do some statistics units, some big data handling units, some programming units. So it's a combination of statistics and ICT units, which gives you that really strong computational data analytics flavour to your geospatial degree. It will set you up for jobs of the future, which are all about data analytics, and in particular that spatial element of data analytics. So spatially, what does all this data tell us about spatial interactions? So lots of really exciting jobs of the future in this area, really exciting outcomes for people who have that sort of data analytics way that they want to approach understanding the world around them. The middle one is probably if you're here for an Environment and Antarctic type seminar, then landscape systems is the kind of one that might suit you. This is a combination of your geospatial that we just spoke about, plus some geography, some geology, some climate. So basically understanding the planet as well as how we measure and map it. So if you like the idea of being an environmental manager, but you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of the science of mapping and measuring and monitoring the environment and making good decisions based on technical data analysis, then a landscape systems major in the geospatial degree is a really great option for people who want to be environmental managers but want to get their hands sort of dirty in the data and actually use science to help you make good decisions about the environment around you. So lots of jobs, really at the moment, this is probably one of the big areas of jobs. So all government agencies are looking for people with geospatial data skills and environmental skills, and this would really set you up for jobs in natural environment, resource management, conservation, working in the if you're in Tasmania, at the hydro or forestry or mining, they're really desperate for people with this combination of understanding how the world works, the environmental side, and having the scientific tools to measure and map it. And then the third one is surveying, which is still a really great career choice for people who are interested in being outdoors, collecting spatial data, creating maps and plans and that kind of work, creating coordinate reference frames and working with satellites and things. So surveyors are just those fundamental spatial data technical people. So it's quite, this is sort of for the people who want to get outside, who want to be working with maths. So it's a little bit mathematical. Yeah, great careers in there. So things like land surveyors who map property boundaries, that would be the major for you to choose, or engineering surveyors who work in construction and set out buildings and tunnels and roads. Those kind of careers come out of the surveying major. So for a small degree with three quite distinct majors, there is a range of career outcomes. And like I said at the start, you can choose one, and then if you do electives that are kind of in the others, you can easily switch across, because a lot of times when you start doing a degree at uni, you're not really sure about what you want. As long as you're picking something you're interested in to start with, there are always options to switch and change if you keep your eye out on and choose electives and things to give you those options. I'm just checking. I think that might be my last slide. Yep. So I'm just going to go back. Okay. I think we have 5 minutes left. That's what my clock's telling me. So time for some questions. I said a lot and didn't give you a chance to ask any questions, but please ask away. I can see the chat, or if you'd like to turn your microphone on and ask me something, happy to take questions. You can raise your hand or you can just start speaking. Anybody has a question? Or anything you'd like me to explain a bit more about the degree?
Hi, Rachel.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Thank you for providing us more information about this degree. I would like to know that you talk about the employability, but do you mind mention a few name of the like employer that might provide or the student might get into to work with in this in the job prospect? Do you
So
know what I
specific types of employers that are looking for these kind of skills?
Yes.
Everybody.
Wow.
Everybody. So in medicine, so I'll give you an example. When there was COVID and we all got those maps of where COVID was spreading, those maps were made by a geospatial person who mapped the locations of where COVID was going and identified where it might go next. So with health outbreaks, there's that kind of thing. Environmental is huge in environmental management. In the geospatial world, you can create, if you like, a virtual reality of the world. And then you can do things like, what happens if we take the forests off this hill? What does that do to the way that the water flows or the way that a bushfire might react? Emergency planning, health, population, understanding urban planning. So a lot of work in government, but also a lot of private consultancy. For the surveyors, there's a lot of work in construction. And probably for the data analysts, there's even work in like commercial, so all the big businesses like Coca-Cola. So the data analytics is a big part of like logistics. So big commercial agencies have geospatial analysts in their teams that help them understand the spatial patterns of their commercial distributions and logistics. And so when I say, like, I wasn't being flippant when I say everybody needs these people, but everybody does need these people. And there is not enough people who can truly understand the spatial. So everything in the planet has a place and everything in the planet is changing and moving. And you need people who understand what's going on, and we do that digitally now. We get a virtual reality of the world we live in and then use that to help us make better decisions, and better decisions happen everywhere. And so everyone needs us. It's like if you're asking a question, it's what, why, where, how, and when. So surveying gives you the where and a fair bit of the what and the when. So yeah, so any big decision making company or government agency needs spatial analytics, and that's what this degree would give you. So, but I guess it tends to be at the moment the bulk of the jobs are in environmental management, forestry, mining, and the surveying construction kind of world. But they can come from anywhere. Defence. The next wars will be fought using satellites and spatial data. They won't be fought on the ground. So geospatial analysts are required for the Defence Force. Yeah, like seriously, everyone.
picture. Can I ask you another question?
Yeah, we just have a minute to go. So just quickly, yep.
Can students do two major together?
They can do one major, but you can choose pretty much the units from the other majors in your electives. So if you choose data analytics, but you also want to do some environmental units, you could do some geography and geology electives, plus the IT and statistics, plus the geospatial, and you'd have a beautiful set of units that give you all the options in the world. So yeah, it's not possible to do all 2 of the 3 majors, but it is possible to sort of build your own electives where you get that same sort of outcome. If you're doing data analytics, you put some environmental units into your elective space, then you'll get the best of both majors. So, and I can provide help with anyone who wants to choose electives, because there's some good ones to do. We are going to get kicked out in 9 seconds. I'm happy to talk to anyone anytime. My details are on the web, and I'd love to follow up with any of you. But I think we're being kicked out now. So it was nice to talk to you. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you back in the other room.
So we're going to move on to the next part of our session, which is student support, scholarships and accommodation. So moving forward, what's it like to live in Tasmania, I guess, for those of us in the call that, or in the meeting, that don't actually live in Tassie at the moment. We call it Tassie, not Tasmania. We shorten everything. Very much a natural state. So nature and outdoors are very important to most Tasmanians. We're world renowned for our landscapes and natural places, and 40% of Tasmania is actually a national park. So you're never very far away for some great walks, beaches, treks, and adventure. Arts and festivals. So we have some fantastic galleries and museums, including Mona and TMAG. TMAG is the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery. We have festivals, Party in the Paddock, Unconformity, and more. So if you're interested in finding out about more of those activities and places, please feel free to have a bit of a Google. We also have some amazing food. So Tasmania is renowned for its fresh produce. And Launceston is a UNESCO city of gastronomy. So yeah, lots of delicious things to try while you're here. We do have a more relaxed pace of life. So I guess if you're looking for a city where you're going to have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, that is not what you're going to find so much in Tasmania. So Tasmania is home to smaller cities and very welcoming communities. We offer a range of student accommodation. So there are several styles, including your own apartment or single rooms in a multi-bedroom apartment, twin share rooms, private studios. They range in price from $300 to $500 a week, depending on the accommodation. So all student accommodation is secure. You are given swipe access, and there is 24 hours security. And your accommodation includes your utilities, so your electricity and Wi-Fi. They are normally also furnished. So all you need to bring are your clothes and your cleaning products and your food, and you're ready to go. So you'll see the type of accommodation in Hobart there at Sandy Bay, and that particular accommodation tends to be multi-bedroom apartments. And then you've got Hitton Hall in the CBD, which is part of a new suite of accommodation that's been built recently. And then Inveresk Apartments in Newnham are also more recent. So they are at the new campus in the city. You can apply for accommodation online. So it's quite simple. You register through the portal and the address is there. So it's just the utas.edu.au/accommodation. Create your account. I would normally recommend that you use the same email address and password for all of the portals that you will use when you apply for certain things at the university. So if you're applying for a scholarship, accommodation, and your application, it's a lot simpler if you use the same email address and password for all 3 portals, because they are different. Once you've submitted an online application, you can track its status. So you can go back in and see if it's been updated and what's going on. You'll normally receive confirmation via email. So it's important to keep track of your email. Sometimes the first email from UTAS could end up in your spam or junk folder. So just be aware of that. We correspond mostly through email when we're notifying you of important things like accommodation and offers, etc. Applications are open now. So if you are looking at applying for next year, or you've already applied, you've already received your offer, it's a great time to go on and do your application for accommodation. They are processed in the order of the date we receive them. So the earlier you apply, the higher up the processing order you will be. Okay, so let's talk about support. We offer a range of support. So study, we know, can be challenging from time to time. It can create stresses in your life where you may need extra support from us. So there are a range of academic support that is available, including peer-assisted study sessions or PASS sessions. These sessions are run by high-achieving students in a course. So, for example, students that might have a higher GPA who are in second or third year would run a session for their peers who tend to be in first year or second year. And you can go along to those sessions and ask the questions and get assistance from your own peers who have sat in your chair, I guess, a year or two before. We have student advisors who can help you plan your degree. So if you're someone that wants to undertake one major, but then you're looking at units from another major, a student advisor can show you how to make your study plan for your degree work best for you and incorporate the units in those elective spaces that you want. There are lots of learning workshops, both face-to-face and online. You can register to attend. They are normally recorded and emailed to you, so if something comes up and you can't make it, lots of different support. We also offer 24-hour study support through Studiosity. It's all well and good to have the support throughout your degree, but then when you get towards the end of your degree, you kind of shift focus around what sort of job am I going to get? How do I do my resume? How do I address the selection criteria? Things like that. So there are Career Connect services that can help you with that. So they provide mentors and connections with professional associations, and they can also assist you in volunteering opportunities as well, which can be quite useful and look great on your resume. We also offer free counselling and wellbeing. So our counsellors are professional accredited counsellors, and they are available in person or online. There is also help with academic, mental health and personal concerns. So if you are struggling, reach out to someone. If you're not sure if it's the right person, they will be able to connect you with the right person. Costs. So costs are something that are at the forefront of most people's minds at the moment with the current economic situation. So degrees, you don't pay for your whole degree up front. So you pay as you go through your degree, particularly if you're an Australian citizen or permanent resident, you pay per unit as you progress through the course. So if you're a part-time student and you're enrolled in 1 or 2 units, that's what you pay for. Now, when I say pay, if you are an Australian citizen, you can defer your fees until you have completed your course and you're earning over a particular income. So for next year, it's about $55,000 a year. You can also defer your student services and amenities fees if you're an Australian citizen. And there are paperwork that will appear once you've accepted your offer. You'll be prompted when you enroll to do that. So all our undergraduate degrees are Commonwealth supported for domestic students. So that's Australian citizens and permanent residents. And you can get a loan, as I said, to defer those fees. And then you pay them back once you are earning over $54,000. We also have a huge number of scholarships, so hundreds of scholarships that are available to students based on a range of things. So some are based on your academic achievement, others it will come down to equity, diversity, sporting achievements, community involvement. So everything you have in your toolkit, you can use for your scholarship applications. We want to know you. So it's really important that you tell us what you're like. And that's as a whole person, not just academically. So register for scholarships in our scholarship portal. So again, we have a portal for the accommodation and for scholarships. So that's where it becomes important to use the same email address and password. You can apply for multiple scholarships. If you believe you're eligible for a scholarship, apply for it. Every year a number of scholarships are not allocated or awarded simply because people don't apply for them. So applying to university for your degree is also very easy. Again, we have an application portal. So you can apply for up to 5 courses at once. So if you're on the fence between a couple of the degrees that we've talked about today, you can apply for up to 5 degrees. You can also receive up to 5 offers. So if you're not quite sure, apply for what you think you're interested in. And if you are on the fence, it gives you a bit more time to do your research and work out exactly which course is going to meet your needs. Once you have submitted your application and provided information about your previous study or work experience, your application goes off to our admissions team. And then if your application is successful, we will send you an offer. And that will normally be, you'll be notified via email. You can log back into your application portal and view your offer. It's really important to read it. Sometimes there might be a condition in there might be a prerequisite subject that you need, or there could be some really important notes. So it's a little bit like a contract. You do need to read it. Once you've accepted your offer, and you can accept more than one offer if you're still going to take a little bit more time to work out which degree you want to do, once you've decided which one, you go and you can enroll in your units. So once you accept your offer, you receive your UTAS credentials, and that will then allow you to enroll. There are enrolment sessions, there are guides, and there is a lot of support to help you through that process as well. Okay, so we come to the question and answer part of the evening. So please feel free, sorry, I got a bit trigger happy there. Please feel free to ask your questions. I can't actually see the questions that may have popped in the chat. So let me just, sorry. If you do have questions that haven't been answered, if you would like to just ask them, please feel free.
Justine, I can read some of them out for you if you like.
That would be amazing, Erin. Thank you.
Great. We have one here. If you are needing to complete a foundation unit, can this be done online?
Yes. So our foundation units, if you are required to meet a foundation requirement, depending on the unit, there are online components. My understanding is that there may still be some lab work that's required on campus. And certainly when you receive your offer, if you have that prerequisite, that information will be relayed to you. So that particular unit is, say, for example, if it's chemistry, it would be studied under a different program before you start your course. So you actually need to pass that foundation unit before you can enroll in your degree. And my understanding is that they are available online, but potentially there could be some, with chemistry, some laboratory work that needs to be done face-to-face, which is normally at the end of that, just before semester starts. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but we can also follow that up.
Thanks, Justine. Another question here is, what would the approximate cost of the degree be?
That is a very good question.
And I guess that depends if you're a domestic or an international one as well.
It definitely depends on whether you're domestic or international. It also depends on the electives that you choose. So each course will be under a particular band if it's a Commonwealth supported place. But if you choose elective units from a different band, then that could also change. So it's kind of a challenging number to pull out of the air. When you go into the course and unit handbook, as you look at the units that are offered, each will have a price. So if you do take electives from, say, health or from humanities and social sciences, those fees will vary depending on the unit and the college that it sits within.
Great, thanks, Justine. We've got a few on here, so we'll try and get through them all for you. If I've submitted an application for a scholarship, when will I be likely to receive a response?
So scholarships will vary. So there's not an actual date where you will receive notification. sometimes they are offered, and if students decline the scholarship, they'll be offered to the next person. So you could potentially hear about scholarships right up until the start of semester. But they normally start making offers sort of January.
Great, thank you. Sorry, let me just see the next one. It was very difficult online to assess the cost of the Bachelor of Natural Conservation. I'm thinking that's the BNEC course. Can you advise approximately what is the likely cost?
So just going back to what I said before, that course does have electives as well, so the costs will vary. If you go onto our fees page, it will tell you the band for each area. So you'll get an idea of how much each year those courses are if you just take units from that college. If you want a more specific amount, it will really come down to your unit choice. So once you enroll in your units, you can generate a tax invoice that will give you the exact cost for that year. But it's a bit dangerous for me to go, oh, it's this amount. And then if you enroll in different units from outside that course, that could totally change the fee for that degree. But the fees page does have quite a lot of information, particularly around Commonwealth supported and the HEX bands.
I can see Bronwyn's dropped the link to the fees and
thanks, Bron.
in the chat there as well. Another question is it possible to complete a multiple foundation unit at the same time?
Technically, I think you can enroll in 2, but I would need to check that. I think that's right. Erin, you're nodding, so I'm hoping.
I think so. That does sound right to me.
Because they are intensive and they're run over 5 or 6 weeks, I would be very hesitant to say someone could cope with 3, but I'm sure from memory I have had students do 2.
Thank you. The next one I can see Bronwyn's typing an answer for. Are there any curveballs an international student should know going into the program?
Oh, I wonder which degree that was concerning. I guess for an international student, you have a range of supports as well. So there is a lot of support for international students from the moment that they accept their offer. If you're applying through an agent, you'll have agent support as well. I guess we probably need a little bit more information to answer that one.
Maybe we could put a link to our international team in the chat as well.
That'd be great.
How do double majors work? Does the second major take up all of your elective slots?
So with the degree structures, you can use your elective. So a major is normally 8 units. So in your degree, if you have 8 units, then potentially you could do a double major. That's where our student advisors come in. So they actually help you plan your degree and help you plan your majors, help you work out which units will fit within your study plan. So we would normally recommend, if you are looking at undertaking a double major, that you book an appointment prior to enrolment with a student advisor and get a formal study plan done. So it's quite easy. It can be done online or face-to-face.
Thanks, Justine. There's a number of other questions going on in the side chat, but I think Bronwyn has them under control.
I've answered a few, but I think there's one here that Scott might be best placed to answer. Oh, which he just has about do you have to choose electives for a degree? If so, do you need a certain amount of units for marine biology? And Scott has just said before I could make him turn his mic on that you need to complete 300 credit points of units for a degree, and 100 of those will need to be elective units, and they can be anything from across the uni, including extra marine biology units. And I'll just add, one of the great things about having those kinds of electives available is it really gives you an opportunity to put like a value add into your degree that you could bring in like a whole nother area if you wanted to, or you could stay completely focused on the area you're studying or mix it up a little bit. But I'm not sure if Rachel or Vishnu have any kind of general advice about choosing electives and what might be the best way to go.
Yeah, so electives, students are welcome to choose whatever units they think is interesting for them. But course coordinators have a role to advise students based on their interests and preferences. Their students can look at the units that are available and they are offering semester-wise, but also on campus online, and see what works for them. And we want students to think about that in terms of how it'll help them get the skills they need as part of their degree. The space for electives is to allow the choice for students to add on to the core and major units. So it's an opportunity for students to build and extend their skills. So the choice is open.
I guess I would just say, sort of with that you can also use it to do something that you enjoy that's outside of the degree itself. So if you like to learn a language, you can do that as an elective and have a break from whatever else is going on, do something a little bit different. But in general, students do tend to use them to kind of choose their own adventure a little bit in what skills they end up with.
Or if you want to mix both pleasure and learning, there's a program called UniGo. I had a question about international learning opportunities, and that's a program which you can fit into elective space, and you can go overseas and use it as a learning opportunity. It's a fantastic program.
It is an amazing program. And just to add to that, Vishnu, it's also fully funded. So it's one of the very few fully funded international experiences that would be offered around the country. So it's a great opportunity for students to add to their degrees. Do we have any more questions, Bron? I'm sorry about my lack of being able to see chat without sharing it with everyone.
No, that's okay. If you go down to the More button, you should the Q&A might pop up there. But we had a question: can I enroll into a degree straight after finishing a summer foundation unit? And I'm pretty confident the answer there is yes.
Definitely. So the whole point of the foundation units being offered over summer is that you can fit them in before the degree starts. So yeah, they start first week of January, so pretty much the 1st or 2nd of January, and they run up to just prior, you'll get your results just prior to the start of semester. So they are definitely available over that summer period so that you can do them before you start your course. A lot of them are also available throughout semesters as well.
And I just answered another question in the chat, but I'll share it with everyone else. I had someone ask about a pathway course into the Ocean and Antarctic degree, but this is really for any of our bachelor degrees. We offer something called a Diploma of University Studies, and you choose a specialisation within that diploma. And so you do a mix of units that are designed to build up your academic skills and really get you to where you need to be academically to cope with bachelor level study. And you also do some of the units from that degree. So a mix of first year units and a mix of academic skill building units. And yeah, it's a fantastic course that really sets people up for success in their bachelor degrees, and a great option if you're coming back to study after a little while, or you need to build up your confidence a bit more for further study, or if you don't meet entry requirements. I've just popped a link to that in the chat, and I will try to remember to put it in the follow-up email as well.
Just having a look, there is a question about the maths prerequisite. The equivalent maths for maths applications. I'm not quite sure what that question's actually asking. So yeah, the prerequisites are listed in the course and unit handbook, and admissions will make an assessment. So if you have studied overseas or in another state, they will work out the equivalency for you and decide whether or not you have met that prerequisite. So they will let you know if you haven't met that prerequisite. They may come back and ask for more information, but they will definitely let you know. So it's very important that you upload your previous transcripts and results so that they can make that assessment.
Yeah, we had a few questions in the BMaths chat about whether Maths Methods 3 was equivalent to General Maths 3. Pre-tertiary studies and things like that, which I was unsure of. I said we'd get to that in a follow-up email if no one
Yeah,
online
we would
knows.
have to check that off the top of my head. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Just while you've got your mic on, Scott, there's someone asking if there's electives regarding threatened marine species. Not sure if you've memorized every elective available.
There are units. There's actually a pretty recent unit around threatened marine species. Dr. Jamina Stewart-Smith coordinates that unit. And that's a terrific unit. It's a really exciting time for threatened marine species exciting time is probably the wrong word, but it's a really pivotal moment for threatened marine species in Tassie, because there are a lot of work happening on Maugean skate, red handfish, giant kelp, and other species, as you may well know. And so, yeah, there is a new unit that delves straight at that. I can't remember the code right now, but that's also, those topics are really kind of integrated across a number of units too. So you'll get exposed to that in several units throughout the degree.
Right, thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay, I think we have answered the questions. I noticed that Bron and Scott are typing 2 answers and there doesn't seem to be anything else in the chat. So, oh, hold on. As I've said that, we've got another one coming in. Does the university work with the French, I don't know how to say that, Astrolabe ships? Is that right? Does anyone know?
Yeah.
I might not be saying it right.
I don't think there's any direct work that's done, but it's possibly sort of ad hoc, depending on what he's doing. It's mostly with the Australian ships, I guess, the Australian science.
Okay, great. So I will wrap things up and thank our lovely academics for coming along and explaining their courses to us in a lot more detail, which is always good to be able to provide you with direct access to the people that are teaching these courses, because they tend to have all the answers. So I hope you have enjoyed tonight, and thank you very much. And you should receive our recording of this as well. It will be available. And you can always reach out if you have any further questions at all to our UConnect or Student Services team.
Justine, what would be the best email for any further questions?
That is a very good question. You could send it to, I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head, u.connect@utas.edu.au. And if you go onto our website, there's certainly there is a way to answer questions as well. So when you go onto the admissions page, you can direct your questions that way. But if you send it through to the UConnect team, they will then make sure it gets to where it needs to go. So u.connect@utas.edu.au.
And you can also reply to the emails that you've gotten about this webinar, and we can funnel it all into the right places.
Definitely. Thanks, Bron. Okay, well, on that note, we will end tonight. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening, and if you need assistance with your applications, let us know.